Dealings with the Dead, number 76. I never dream if I can possibly avoid it. When the thing is absolutely forced upon me, why, that is another affair. On the evening of the 2nd day of January, 1850, from some inexplicable cause, I lost all appetite for my pillow. I had, till past 11, been engaged in the perusal of Gothe's Confessions of a Fair Saint, after a vain trial of the commonplace expedients, such as counting leaping sheep, up to 1,001, humming Old Hundred, and fixing my thoughts upon the heads of good Parson Cleverly's last Sabbath sermon on perseverance. I fortunately thought of Joel Barlow's Columbiad, and after 2 or 3 pages, went thankfully to bed. The printing's not as sharp. I threw myself upon my right side, as I always do, for being deaf, very in the sinister ear. I thus exclude the nocturnal cries of fire, oysters, and murder. I think I must have been asleep full half an hour by a capital Shrewsbury clock that I keep in my chamber. It was, of course, on the dawning side of 12, the very time when dreams are true, our poets lie. Well, back then, did they not have the daylight savings time, so 12 would have been midnight? Which latter alternative is impossible. I was aroused by the stroke of a deep-toned bell, and in an instant sat bolt upright, listening to the sound. I should have known it, among 1,000. It was the old passing bell of King's Chapel. I am confident as to the bell. It had the full jarring sound occasioned by the blockhead of a sexton who cracked it in 1814. I counted the strokes, 1, 2, 3. An adult male, of course, and then aged. 74 was the number of the strokes of that good old bell, corresponding with the years of his pilgrimage. And then a pause. I almost expected another, so doubtless did he, poor man, but it came not. Some old stagger, thought I, has put up for the long night, and the power of slumber was upon me in a moment. I slept, but it was a fitful sleep, and I dreamt such a dream as none but a sexton of the old school can ever dream. Velut agri somnia vana vingentur species species ut nec pes nec caput uni redactor furta. Funeral baked meats, and a bride's cake, and weepers and wedding rings seemed oddly consorted together. At one moment, 2 very light and airy skeletons seemed to be engaged in dancing the polka, and, getting angry, flung their skulls furiously at each other. I then fancied that I saw old Grossman driving his hearse at a full run with the corpse of an intemperate old lady, not to the graveyard, but by mistake to the very shop where she bought her Jamaica. I dare not relate the half of my dream, lest I should excite some doubt of my veracity. For aught I know, I might have dreamt on till midsummer. Wasn't midsummer still June back then, rather than a week into August? For some reason they changed it. Anyways, had not a hand been laid on my shoulder, and a change come over the spirit of my dream in a marvelous manner. For I actually dreamt. I was wider awake than I often am when Sirius rages of a summer afternoon, and I am taking my comfort in my post-prandial chair. Starting suddenly, I beheld the well-known features of an old acquaintance and fellow spadesman. "Don't you know me?" "Yes," said I. "No, I can't say I do, for I was confidently frightened." "No, not know me. Haven't we lifted, head and foot, together for 36 years? Well, I suppose we have, but you are so deadly pale, and will you be so kind as to take your hand from my shoulder, for it's rather airy at this season, you know, and your palm is like the hand of death, and such it is," said he. "Did you not hear my bell?" "Your bell?" I inquired, gazing more intently at the little white-haired old man that stood before me. "Even so, Abner," he replied. "Your old friend and fellow laborer, Martin Smith, is dead. I always had a solemn affection for the passing bell. It sounded not so pleasantly, to be sure, in the neighborhood of theaters and joyous hotels, and its good old solemnizing tones are no longer permitted to be heard. I longed to hear it once more, and after they had laid me out and left me alone, I clapped on my great coat over my shroud, as you see, and ran up to the church and tolled my own death peal. When, more than 100 years ago, in 1747, Dr. Canner took possession in the old way by entering and closing the doors and tolling the bell, as the Reverend Roger Price had done before in 1729. He did not feel that the church belonged to him half so truly as I have felt for many years whenever I got a fair grip of that ancient bell rope. "Martin," said I, "this is rather a long speech for a ghost, and must be wearying to the spirit. Suppose you sit down." And this I said because I really supposed the good little old man, contrary to all his known habits, was practicing upon my credulity, perhaps upon my fears, and was playing a New Year's prank in his old age, and I resolved, by the smallest touch of sarcasm in the world, to show him that I was not so easily deceived. He made no reply, but drawing my hand between his great coat and shroud, placed it over the region of his heart. "Good God! You are really dead, then, Martin," said I, for all was cold and still there. "I am," he replied. "I have lived long. Did you count the strokes of my bell?" I nodded assent, for I could not speak. 4 years beyond the scriptural measure of man's pilgrimage. "You are not so old as I am." "No," I replied. "No, not quite," said he. "No, no, Martin," said I, adjusting my nightcap. "Not by several years." "Well," said the old man with a sigh, "a few years make very little difference when one has so many to answer for. Those odd years are like a few old shillings in a very long account. I have come to ask you to go with me." A cold sweat broke through my skin as quickly as if it had been mere tissue paper, and my mind instantly sprang to the work of finding devices for putting the old man off. "Surely," said he, observing my reluctance, "you would not deny the request of a dying man." "Perhaps not," I replied. "But now that you are dead, dear Martin, for heaven's sake, what is the use of it?" The old man seemed to be pained by my hesitation. "Abner," said he, after a short pause, "you and I have had a goodly number of strange passages at odd hours down in that vault. Are ye afeard, Abner, eh?" "Why, as to that, Martin," said I, "if you were a real live sexton, I'd go with pleasure. But our relations are somewhat changed, you will admit. Besides, as I told you before, I cannot see the use of it." I felt rather vexed to be suspected of fear. "You have the advantage of me," Abner Wycherly, said Martin Smith, being alive, and I have come to ask you to do a favor for me, which I cannot do for myself. Now, his name, Abner Wycherly. What is it? Said I, rather impatiently, perhaps. I want you to embalm my... Martin, said I, interrupting him. I can't. I never embalmed in my life. You misunderstand me, the old man replied. I want you to embalm my memory and preserve it from the too common lot of our profession, who are remembered often as resurrectionists and men of intemperate lives and mysterious conversations. I want you to allow me a little niche among your dealings with the dead. I shall take but little room, you see for yourself. And then, in an undertone, he said something about thinking more of the honor than he should of a place in Westminster Abbey, which was very agreeable, to be sure, notwithstanding the sepulchral tone in which it was uttered. Indeed, I was surprised to find how very refreshing to the spirits of an author this species of extreme unction might be administered even by a ghost. Martin, said I have always thought highly of your good opinion, but what can I say? How can I serve you? I am desirous, said he, of transmitting to my children a good name, which is better than riches. Well, my worthy old fellow laborer, I replied, if that is all you want, the work is done to your hand already. You will not suspect me of flattering you to your face, now that you are dead, Martin, and I can truly say that I have heard thousands speak of you with great kindness and respect, and never a lisp against you. All this I am ready to vouch for, but for what purpose do you ask me to go with you? I wish you to go with me and examine for yourself, said the old man, and then you can speak of your own knowledge. Don't refuse me. Let us have one more of those cozy walks, Abner, under the old chapel and over that yard. I desire to talk over some things with you there, which can be better understood upon the spot, and I want to explain one or two matters so that you may be able to defend my reputation, should any censure be cast upon it after I am gone. I cannot go with you tonight, Martin, said I. I see a gleam in the east already. True, said he. I may be missed. For not more than half of 1 second I closed my eyes, and in that twinkling of an eye he was gone. But I heard him whisper distinctly as he went, tomorrow night. And when it comes to entities that visit you in dreams and other visions, sometimes they visit you again, but you're not aware of it. So I'm not going to necessarily say that certain entities were liars when they said that I'm going to show you something, and it's like I just wasn't aware when the thing came to show me. Because I feel like sometimes things are being communicated, but like, you know. And it would have been nice if he told more of the story.